Have you ever wondered what people are thinking while sitting in traffic on the way to work? Well, Posterscope has this and many other answers to consumer behaviours in the form of the Out-of-Home Consumer Survey. The survey delves into aspects from changing media habits to opinions on outdoor billboards. Warburg MD of Posterscope joins us from Cape Town. Plus, Gavin Heron is here in studio. Hello, Gavin. Nice to see you again.
Yep, thank you. Nice.
Eric, welcome to the show. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Would you like to give us some background on the survey and some of the objectives that you were hoping to achieve?
We work for a company called Posterscope, and what we do is we play in the out-of-home advertising field. And one of our biggest challenges is understanding our target market. We'd like to know where they are and what they're thinking at different times of day so that we can plan better campaigns. So what we did with OCS, it was a survey where we interviewed 2,000 respondents around South Africa, across all the different provinces, and we asked them questions like how they consume media, what they're feeling at different times of the day, what their patterns are around the day, how they get from A to B, what they're thinking about in those different environments. And then with that, we've overlaid that with what their emotions are so that we can get a good idea of the best place and time to meet or to intersect with our target market.
And what are some of the learnings that came out of the results, Eric, of this survey?
I think two of the biggest ones are firstly that people are spending a lot more time out of home than they were previously. And this has actually been corroborated by our overseas markets as well. The same thing is happening in the UK at the moment.
Why
and I think that can be explained by, firstly, cities growing. So for example, in Johannesburg, people are generally traveling further to get to work, which makes them spend more time in the car. And secondly, the concentration of people inside the cities is getting greater. So there's more traffic and more congestion on the roads, which once again is resulting in people spending more time on the roads. And then the second learning that we learned is that people really are being inundated by a lot of different messaging all day. Just in terms of out of home, they are being hit by messaging on billboards, on bus shelters, on activation on digital screens, on rubbish bins. The list is endless. There really are a lot of touch points which are hitting this target market.
Any thoughts from your side, Gavin?
No, I think that what Eric has said is really interesting, because as the media gets more fragmented, and it actually becomes much more difficult to cut through. So, for me, what's interesting about the research is that billboards are still very noticeable, and you look at some of the data that they're actually saying that this is one of the more important media, obviously after television, and I think that it plays a huge role within the media mix for any campaign.
I think it's also, once we have a survey in this way, it becomes more measurable, and it's always, up to now, been very difficult to justify your spend on outdoor or out of home for that matter. So it's great to actually be able to see the effect of outdoor in terms of, or aligned with traditional media as well. Was that one of your focuses?
It was. It was a survey which was focused on out of home, but at the same time we did ask questions about the other media types, and that was so that we could compare apples with apples. We wanted to compare outdoor with TV and radio and print. And fortunately for us, outdoor did fare very, very nicely. The awareness levels on outdoor were very, very high. As Gavin mentioned, TV also performed very well.
And I think strong contender, TV, definitely so, if you look at the facts.
But Eric,
in terms of awareness, TV and outdoor performed the best. And I think TV performed very well because it's a medium where you're engaged with the medium. You're listening to something, you're watching something, you're very much focused on TV. With respect to outdoor, what we found is a lot of the time people are stuck in traffic, or they're at a taxi rank or a bus station, and they don't really know what to do with themselves. And so outdoor there fills a very nice gap in terms of entertainment and information transfer. So people in those areas can actually learn something, and it can break the tedium of waiting for be it a bus or a taxi or a car.
Eric, I mean, one of the when we think about billboards, we tend to think about traditional big posters on the sides of freeways, or street pole advertising, on highways. Is there any new types of outdoor or poster media that are coming out and emerging as main contenders for influencing consumer choice?
Yes, one of the big findings of this survey was the advertising media which were closest to purchase, so your proximity to purchase, fared very, very nicely. So here you're looking at your digital screens in store, your billboards and your scrolling units outside shopping centres, and your things like trolley branding perform very, very nicely as well. So the conversion from seeing an advert to sales, that's the area where you need to be focusing if you really want conversion, closer to point of purchase.
What's the story with cinema? I thought that was quite interesting to say that consumers are saying that they are spending more time listening to the radio or watching TV than going to the cinema. What's the drop in cinema?
I think what can explain that drop is a survey was done last year in 2009, and that was right in the middle of the recession. And of all the media types, cinema's got the biggest barrier to entry in terms of cost. You have to actually spend a fair amount of money to go to the cinema, whereas when you're looking at outdoor or TV or radio, there are no real barriers to entry. So I think that's a sign of the times. It will be interesting to see once we do our follow-up survey this year and into next year how the cinema will fare. I think it will increase a lot.
One of the media that surprised me that seems to have dropped is the internet. Everyone talks about internet growth and more people being online, and there's this hype about that space, but your service indicates people are spending less time on the internet and not more.
We've discussed this at length in the office, because that surprised us as well. And what we think is probably the cause of this is that firstly, the speed of the internet has increased greatly. So people might be getting more done on the internet, but it's just being done in a quicker amount of time, so people are spending less time on the internet. And then secondly, I think a lot of people don't really view Facebook and those social networking sites as browsing the internet, because that's undoubtedly a huge increase in time spent on the internet. But once again, we'll need to just gauge that next year when we get our second sample back to see how those figures emerge.
You said that you're rolling out the survey in Africa within 2010. Can you tell us about that a bit more? What are your plans? Are there any specific countries that you're looking at?
It's still very much in the planning stage at the moment, but we are we're going to be focusing on East Africa and the Nigeria-Ghana area, because those are areas where there's been a lot of interest in terms of, firstly, outdoor advertising. People are asking for more and more inventory in those areas. And the biggest problem in those areas is the lack of information. It's very, very hard to get accurate, detailed information on those areas. So if we manage to do those surveys in those areas, we can offer clients a big advantage compared to other companies.
Now, one of the things that's interesting about Ghana is that one of the biggest medias is actually painted buildings. So maybe
those murals,
which are amazingly beautiful. So it would be interesting to see how that sort of, as a very traditional sort of low-tech media, actually compares against the more high-tech media, which is more the new stuff that's emerging. And I think it's amazing.
Yeah, we undoubtedly are going to have a learning curve there, because it's going to be a very, very different market, and we're going to have to tailor our questionnaire in quite a big way to make sure that we capture everything which is relevant.
Well, we'll be looking out for that space on our side. We have to wrap, Eric. Is there anything that you'd like to leave us with, any final thoughts?
Well, I've given this much thought.
In your opinion, what is the key role for outdoor advertising within the media mix?
It's a very broad question. It's very much dependent on who your product is and what your product category is. If you, for example, a fizzy drink, most of the sales there are done through the retail and the proximity to purchase areas. So, for example, billboards there would be good to remind people on the way to purchase. Whereas something like a financial institution, it might just be a good way to build your brand and to remind somebody of your product. So it's very, very different depending on who your product is.